Alabama looks like they may be just fine keeping pace with that because, look, Kalen Deboer's recruiting remains very, very good. What's I can't remember what it's from, but the old saying, like, the rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated.
Mhm.
Well, the rumors of Alabama recruiting death have been greatly exaggerated. Again, I don't think they'll ever hit the, like number one class multiple years in a row, but they're going to continue to be top five. And in fact, you look right now, they're top five, trending towards top three. In the last month alone, they flipped a 4-star quarterback from SMU, which doesn't sound as impressive until you realize that Keelan Russell was just the MVP of the Elite 11 camp. They get a 4-star running back in Anthony Rogers, 1-star quarterback in Chuck McDonald. They flipped, what's his name? He's an interior offensive lineman. I'm blanking, but he was committed to Georgia. He decommitted. It looked like LSU was moving in on him. He's now shut down his commitment. He's going to Alabama. They have 3 different 5-stars that are trending Alabama. Offensive tackle Ty Haywood, who's the number 9 player nationally. Wide receiver Caleb Cunningham, who's number 15. Quarterback Dijon Lee, who's number 30. And again, this is a Kalen Deboer that took over a Washington program that was 4-8, 4-8 the year he took over. And then he went 25-3, 10-1 against ranked teams.
It's still the big brand. Alabama is one of the biggest brands in college football. Alabama was a playoff team last year. Alabama has facilities. Alabama has an incredible stadium. Alabama has incredible support. And Kalen Deboer himself was just in the national championship. So you said it well in the sense of, like, will it ever be what Nick Saban did for 15 years, where every year it wasn't just having the number one recruiting class, but like it was a at times a gigantic margin of the guys that he was getting compared to anyone else in the country? No, but will I be surprised if Alabama's a top 5 recruiting class over the next 5 to 10 years, as that brand is still as strong as it's been? No, I won't be surprised.
Here's the hot take question. Is Kalen Deboer a better X's and O's coach than Nick Saban?
What side of the football?
Nick Saban's obviously an elite defensive mind. DeBoer's an elite offensive mind.
Very different.
But Saban's greatness, I believe, like we talked about, remember we talked about most impactful football teams in college football history, and some of it was like through scheme. Saban's impact was really through organization, through being the CEO of a just perpetual success machine that literally started to power itself, right? You get the best players, so you win championships. Because you win championships, you get the best players. And he figured out how to build the organization top to bottom to do that. Now he was willing to adapt. And that was another great trait. His adaptability was second to none. Hiring of coaches was really great as well. But
he was on the front. He was on the front. He was at the beginning of all that. Like, he's the one who started the trend of as our boy Rick Neweyes like to say, the halfway house for coaches that get fired, go to Alabama, spend a year or two under Nick Saban, then go on their way and go somewhere else. Like, he was the inventor of that, of the major budget to bring in coaches to have special quote unquote projects. I will say this though.
Exactly. So if you lose a little bit, go ahead.
Let me say this. Nick Saban had, you walk into a recruit's room and Nick Saban sits down and says, here's an offer from Alabama. He's the greatest coach of all time. He's put more NFL draft picks, guys in the NFL, all the first rounders, all the Heisman Trophy winners, all the All-Americans. It's hard to say no. But you know what? Just like we've heard about Bill Belichick in New England, same thing of Alabama. It is very difficult to be a player at Alabama under Nick Saban, as much as it was difficult to be a player in New England under Bill Belichick. It is no bullshit. It is, you do what I say. You go to bed when I say you go to bed. You eat what I say you eat. You train the way I want you to train. He is a dictator. And it worked. It was phenomenal. In today's game, and not saying it didn't work, because obviously it worked last year, their playoff team. Kalen Deboer and what he's done in the building making it more on the players to be responsible. And the way that he runs the program, very different than Saban, may be better in today's game.
It might jive a bit better with
Which is why you may not be seeing a huge decrease in recruiting.
Bo Kenny says, is T-Bob suggesting DeBoer knows ball better than Nick Saban? I guess I'm just wondering, if you look at what DeBoer, and it's weird because we don't have any great examples of Saban doing more with less, because he always recruited at such an elite level anywhere he was at. So maybe this is just completely unfair framing, but again, nobody has gotten more out of their talent than Kalen Deboer has, any coach in the country, full stop. Like, nobody over improved the talent on the roster or outperformed the talent on the roster, whether it was
you say that
at Fresno or Washington.
They just had a first-round quarterback, receiver, offensive line that just won the Joe Moore Award. So you can say all you want that, like, oh my God, Washington didn't have the talent last year. Washington was a very talented football team. Best offensive line, Heisman Trophy contending quarterback at the end of the day.
They weren't the best offensive line. You know that for a fact.
I know they weren't, but they were. Supposedly the people that know offensive line play better than I do.
They weren't the best offensive line. They're very good. Don't get me wrong. They played the national championship, but I mean, go look at blue chip ratio. They weren't even close to that 50%. Like, yeah, they had some highlights. But how many of those highlights?
Three guys drafted in the first round? Drafted in the first round?
Yes, but how many of that? How much of that is because of the situations also that Kalen Deboer is putting them in? Look at what Michael Penix and Caleb Deboer did with each other when they were teamed up with one another. You think Michael Penix Jr. is a first round pick without Kalen Deboer? I don't know. Maybe. I don't think so. I guess my thing is, you've taken a Kalen Deboer who I think, again, outperformed every coach in the country in terms of raising the level of his players. And if he had a weakness that was recruiting, you've literally given him the greatest recruiting machine that we've ever seen. And so maybe framing it like, is he a better X's and O's coach than Nick Saban? It doesn't even matter. The thing is, you've maybe taken what could be argued as objectively the best X's and O's coach in the game, and you've now given him the best organization in the game that was created by the man who, that's how he became the greatest coach of all time.
Like, I doubt that he went in there and gutted the staff. No, I'm not talking about coaches. I'm talking about the recruiting staff, the video staff. Yeah, like all that's there. I mean, everyone that has learned to recruit their asses off every single weekend during the offseason, in season, of how to excite players to come to Alabama, that blueprint is still there. So yes, you take a coach who is demonstrated that he can coach his ass off and win football games and take teams to a national championship that don't have even close to the blue chip ratio of Alabama, and you insert him into a situation that is perfectly set up for him to have success, which is why he has a nice runway. Like, Alabama shouldn't have a drop-off anytime soon. There is a incredible runway that he has landed into that, unless he completely jacks it up, at least have success for the first handful of seasons.
Well, and again, the recruiting's not falling off. No. They're right there. They're number 3 in the country in the 25 class. And they're trending with 3 5-stars to get him. So, like, that's the whole point of this conversation is, and I feel so odd that my life has come to this point where I'm the guy talking about how to watch out for Alabama, and like you and Jake are kind of telling me like, well, I don't know, they're missing weapons. And they are missing weapons, to be fair, this year, for sure. But whatever. You know this, from fucking day one.
What do we have them? Do we have them at 10-2?
From day one.
10-2?
Nick Saban, yes, we had them 10-2.
Okay.
From day one, let's see, let me make sure. We had Alabama at 10-2, losing to UGA, which they have in Bryant Denny, and I'm not 100% sold on, but whatever. We had them losing to UGA, and then we had them losing one of at Tennessee, at LSU, home Mizzou, at OU, Iron Bowl. Just dropping one of those other games. It still feels pretty realistic.